Obviously, I want to talk about, this past NFL season a little bit. New England Patriots back in the Super Bowl.
Unreal.
How did it feel for you? Obviously, the legacy that you helped build, seeing them back in the Super Bowl, Mike Vrabel as a head coach. Just how was that whole moment for you?
It's been really, really awesome. They've done things that, some of my teams can never do, like winning in Denver, on the road, in the playoffs, turning something around super quick with a young quarterback, a new head coach, new design of what the team looks like, a lot of free agents, a lot of guys that they had drafted that made the team. There's a lot of cool things, and an old saying, what? When the tide rises, all boats float. What is it? When the tide rises, rising tide lifts all boats.
Okay.
When the Patriots are doing well, we're all doing well. That's the Patriots family.
I like that a lot.
There's my guy Mitch.
Speaking of the Patriots family, there's a guy that I think you know pretty well, Chad O'Shea. Just became the wide receiver coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you remember about working with him and what he can bring to Kansas City's wide receiver corps?
I think what Chad O'Shea brings to the table is structure. He's really, a coach has like two jobs: give information and be a psychological guy to balance the emotions of especially the receiver position where every guy wants to lift the ball. And Chad does a great job at that. He always had us prepared with all the looks. He did whatever it took to make everyone comfortable in that room, and he also knew what buttons to push with certain guys, when a guy needed to be loved up and when a guy needed a kick in the butt. So I think the maturity, the structure, and the knowledge he has of the game is going to help them big, which they need in that specific position room, right now.
Definitely understand that. And then obviously free agency, a lot of big moves. Was there a move that really stood out to you so far?
Yeah, the Max Crosby going to the Ravens and then coming back to the Raiders. I thought that was wild. I loved what the Raiders did. They brought in
Linderbaum.
I think that's going to be a huge addition, especially if they go out and they get Fernando Martinez or Mendoza. And so, having that position specifically for a young quarterback is huge because he can help so much dictate pre-snap for the young quarterback so he can get less off his mind and be able to execute offense. I thought that was big. That trade, the Chiefs trading away McDuffie to the Rams, that was huge. The JSN contract, well-deserved. Someone you don't hear about a lot, which is a good thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? As far as off the field, but what he is on the field. Great leader, great guy, great professional, it seems like. And I don't know him. That's just me outside looking in. You can just tell the way he plays the game. When an organization drafts a guy, sees him work, sees him produce, and then reward him, I'm all for that. So I think that was awesome. There's been a lot of crazy moves. NFL is undefeated when it comes to just always having something to talk about.
It's very true. This year round, I thought Kenneth Walker is another one. That was a big
Walker
one.
Gone.
Yeah.
Which tells you the Chiefs are they going to go for Love? Are they not? Probably not. They didn't think they could get him, so what do? They go get Kenneth Walker. Developing the design of that team. The Chiefs, are they going to go more to a running style offense because Patrick Mahomes coming off that knee, the injury. So, I think it's been so fun to watch, and I can't wait to see what this draft is. There's a lot of great football players.
Definitely is a lot of good football players. And I got a question for you that I've always noticed from your game back when you were playing. There's always been so much talk about two-way players and guys like obviously Travis Hunter. That was the big talk. You were a guy that played every phase of the game. You were special teams. You played some snaps on defense and as well as wide receiver. What can you speak to in terms of the toll? Did it take a toll on your body? Was it something that, I guess you had to come in with a different mindset knowing that you're going to be all over the field?
Well, it definitely takes a toll on your body. But he's a young enough player where you can put those reps in at that young age. I think mentally, it's a lot for a young football player who's trying to learn a whole new offense. Which there's a lot of nuances of offense, especially with the Liam Cohen offense.
Yeah.
You know that he's got a lot of guys, a lot of moving parts, motions, personnel groups, formations, all that stuff. And then you got to go learn a whole new defense. And then each week, what time are you going to put towards defense in meetings, and what time are you going to put in offense? You got to have a real bright individual that can be able to digest all that. So I think mentally it's a lot because you're not going out there and playing against Louisiana Lafayette Tech School. You're playing against a professional on both sides of those balls, which are dedicating their whole time into trying to beat you on whatever side ball you're on. So it takes a lot, but he showed a lot of promise. Hopefully he can stay healthy, Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what he does this year, because they have a great football team.
They do.
That addition of Jacoby Myers, got Travis real comfortable.
Yeah.
They got the kid on the outside, Thomas Jr. Which I think it opens up. Jacoby Myers opened him up to play the kind of ball he wants to play on the outside of those numbers. Jacoby eats in the middle. They also got tight ends. They got a lot of fun stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Travis Hunter.
Right. No, definitely.
Because then they can use him, periodically. You don't have to have him in the whole game, but if you get packages to him on offense and on defense, that'll be able to work. Because you won't have to think about it. Because once you have a player that's thinking, then you can't play fast. That's the ultimate thing.
Okay.
That's why you practice and you study all day long, so it becomes second nature. It becomes almost like deja vu.
Like
muscle memory.
Yeah.
But if you don't see it on the field in practice, the look, or in the meeting room, or in the walkthrough, because it takes a lot. And so when a guy is thinking about, all right, well, I don't know what coverage is. Is it this coverage, that? Then he ain't playing to his strength.
Right.
You don't get to use what your superpower is if you're thinking.
Right.
So I'm sure they'll do a great job of finding where he can go out and play, because he's a talented football player. You just got to stay healthy.
Definitely. And I got one more question for you. Obviously, all the Super Bowl success, all the success just winning the division itself. I think you guys had a crazy streak going. I'm just curious, what was it with you guys that kept that motivation going? Because, there was never a moment where it felt like you guys had like a layoff, where it felt like, okay, these guys aren't, what they used to be. What was that motivation in the locker room, or even for yourself, to just say, we're up for anything no matter what? We're still trying to keep, racking up the Super Bowls.
Well, I tell you, a lot of that has to do with the ecosystem, the leadership of the team, the Tom Brady's, the Rob Gronkowski's, early on, when I was a younger player, the Teddy Bruschi's, the Kevin Falks. The way they practice and the way they show up to work every day, if you're a guy that's 53rd on the list trying to make the team and you don't put in that kind of effort, you're going to look weird. So, when your highest paid guy and your best football player is practicing his tail off every single day, you have no choice but to practice like that. So I think the preparation process of how we took things, going out and trying to win each day, was the ultimate separator, and that was because of the leadership we had. Our best guys were doing that.
Right. I definitely understand, man. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.